wife, 30 female, and I dated for about 6 years before getting married about 4 months ago. Our sex life has always been great, but waxes and wanes at times, like all couples. We always have communicated openly, and I've never not thought she was perfect for me. We've always kept in good shape, and we like to look stylish. We haven't changed in appearance in any major way since we met. However, since we got married, she has started dressing and acting sexier. For example, lower cut dresses, a bit more makeup, spending more time on her hair. She bought some sexy thongs that I thought were kind of a special occasion stuff for me or us, but these are essentially her new go-to underwear for regular days and work. We were at a friend's wedding not too long ago, and she was dancing and being pretty wild, to the point that I felt a little uncomfortable. To be fair, I was also dancing and having fun, but she was saying things like, "It's sad friend X still doesn't have a girlfriend. I'm going to dance with him." Our sex life has not changed at all since being married. We have talked, and I asked, "Do you feel less sexy now that we're married? I think you're amazing and sexy as always, and if you just want to get some swagger or confidence back that you feel is gone, I would love to support you." I've also asked if she's trying to give me a hint about changing up my look and trying to spice things up. She insists she is doing nothing different, but after 7 years, I know she is. She has also recently been saying stuff like, "Let's not wear our rings when we go out tonight. I am worried about getting them dirty," and other similar stuff. This has never been a concern before. What do you think might be going on? I haven't noticed anything else really change. Perhaps she is spending more time with some friends lately, but it is not anything drastic. Do you think this is to boost her own confidence, or that she might be thinking about asking to open our marriage, or something else? I would have no reason to expect anything nefarious, except that the change is noticeable and she denies it. The hard thing is our communication is and always has been great. Does she really not notice these changes? Well, OP, I couldn't say if it's a negative or a positive thing, but personally I am a systems and pattern guy, and if I see a change in pattern, then it's a big notice for me. Like, you're seeing these things change in your wife, and this happened after your marriage. All of these changes are not some midlife crisis, I would think. She's too young for that. But the pattern is clear. They're all superficial things that have to do with her. Clothing, makeup, not wearing the rings, that one's a bit odd, I have to say. But everything else is about personal presentation. So the things I would start to look at is she talking about different things now? Things that didn't come up before? Do you notice any other behavioral changes that you might think are out of place for her? If no, then you need to sit down and talk to her again and say, "Look, I know I brought this up before and you're saying nothing's happening, but I'm noticing it and I really want to know why. I'm not angry, I'm not sad, I just want to understand to see how I can help." Hopefully she'll open up, and if she doesn't, you can always tell her, "Well, okay, I understand you don't want to talk about it. If you ever do, I'm right here for you." But other than that, I would say all you can do is wait until she does want to come talk to you. And what do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's check out the community comments. Deleted says, "If she is only ditching the rings when you go out together and not leaving hers at home when she goes out with friends, I think a combination of small life crisis and not wanting to feel old and boring because she's married now would make sense. I wouldn't jump to anything negative, but no one here really knows, only she does. Good luck." Nightingales 219 says, "You both just turned 30. Could it be that she feels the need to do this to check if she's still in the market? Without any bad intentions towards you, she might feel her ego being boosted by being at least wanted by random people, without ever acting on it. Again, this is just a thought though." And Opie responds, "This was my first thought, but, and I hate to sound vain, we always kind of both get attention. She also had plenty of attention during the wedding and the honeymoon, and we just recently had another vacation where we spent some time on the beach. I spoke to her about this, and she said essentially, 'Honey, relax, I haven't changed at all. I think it's so cute that you're more jealous now that we're married.' My friends have actually said she is way more open with them as well, like touchy-feely friendly. Maybe she feels like they're family now? Thanks for the reply. I definitely have started to and will continue to give her more unsolicited compliments. Grizz Chops says, not wanting to wear the rings when out and I'm going to dance with someone for a really flimsy reason are red flags. Maybe she's leading up to asking about an open marriage? And Dopey responds, we had discussed things like threesomes, etc. And we both agreed on if things ever slow down in the bedroom substantially, we can talk about things. And that we could bring it up if either of us ever wanted to try some wilder things. It's never come back up. Throwaway Act 76543 says, none of that would be really concerning without the thing about not wearing the rings. Not necessarily a massive red flag, but a little weird. Does she spend a lot of evenings without you? And Dopey responds, she spends maybe one night a week without me, usually with friends or going to the gym when I can't make it. Never really late nights. She doesn't really like drinking either. We have mutual friends, so I think I'd know if she was lying about where she goes. Sometimes I also work late while she's at home. It's just part of our dynamic. And Wambar says, her not accepting to wear her wedding ring, flirtatious dancing, and wearing underwear formally reserved for special occasions suggests she is, at the very least, vying for the attention of other men. You need to have a sit down and tell her other people have noticed changes too and figure out what's going on, because this could quickly lead into something more. And Opie responds, thanks, I think I needed to hear all of this. I was thinking, does she want attention from other men? When I should have been thinking, she wants attention from other men. Why? Opie's edit. Thanks to everyone for their perspectives. I think the biggest thing to do is refuse to take "there's nothing wrong, it's in your mind" as an explanation. We're driving to her family's house this weekend, so we have a few hours to talk about things. I was nervous about airing out a problem on Reddit, but you guys are great. Well, the community had a lot of different takes from "it's just personal," "it's not a red flag," "it is a red flag," and others. But OP seems to have taken something from it, so now let's move on to the update to see how this story ends. Hi y'all, thanks for most people's perspectives. I figured it didn't make sense to wait, so I called up my brother-in-law, it asked wife's sister's hubby, to chat. My wife and her sister are absolute best friends in the world, so I thought brother-in-law might have some insight. My wife has been talking to and spending time with her sister a lot recently, which is not uncommon, but it seemed a bit out of the ordinary. My brother-in-law said that my sister-in-law has been pretty depressed and sad and jealous since my wedding. She said some things like, "Now the perfect couple can have the perfect life," directed at us, and saying things like, 50% of marriages end up in divorce. I wonder who we know will be first, directed at no one in particular. They also went out shopping, and the thong purchases were from that trip. My brother-in-law has talked to sister-in-law about the jealousy and sadness, and I guess she is exploring some therapy options. Sister-in-law has been in a horrible job situation recently as well. I have always loved my sister-in-law, but I know she had some serious relationship trust issues in the past, and I think she might be, accidentally or on purpose, I don't really know, planting some seeds in my wife's mind about being hesitant to settle down. But after 7 years? Weird. After talking to brother-in-law, I brought it back up with my wife very gently. She did tell me that sister-in-law told her things like, "You know, after marriage, you need to keep your game up. What if he leaves? You'd have nothing." That type of thing. My wife said she just mostly ignored these things, but can now see that her personality might have been starting to change. She stayed with her sister for a while when I was working out of state, and she said they read a lot of Cosmo type stuff, which my wife is not usually a fan of, and went shopping where my sister-in-law bought my wife some new Sexier dresses. Also, I did ask her about the rings. She said her and sister-in-law were reading and talking about how you should do that every now and then to gauge how people act around the two of us. I was like, what? She said it was to make sure neither of us took advantage of the situation and was flirty with people. Super flimsy reasoning, but that is consistent with what brother-in-law was saying about sister-in-law. The whole, are you really sure marriage is what you wanted? I'm pretty unhappy with sister-in-law. My brother-in-law is a very good person, but has been busy with work change related to sister-in-law's issues with her career. He has had to put in more hours. He is direct and honest and is trying to help. I didn't want to mention it, but sister-in-law has also learned she is infertile. I didn't think this was important to the point of the thread, but it might shed some light onto her recent actions. I will admit, I should take some of the blame. My career situation has recently changed and I have been pretty consumed with that. Not to the neglect of my wife, but perhaps to the neglect of my and her families, e.g. not going to family functions. I wish I could be more supportive at times. It's a tough situation because I honestly think my wife loves my sister-in-law just as much as she loves me, but it must be a bit confusing. I think if sister-in-law continues to be like this, we will be slowly giving her space and withdraw a bit. Right now, this is not a pattern for her, just something since the wedding. She is older than my wife, and some of you might be correct. We are more outwardly successful in terms of money, careers, etc. I think sister-in-law is an awesome person, usually, so hopefully we can help her without being too affected by her. At least I got my wife to admit something might be changing, and I am almost certain I know the source now. I think we're in the clear. My wife and I have dealt with some strife in our relationship early on because of her sister, so this is something we can deal with. Thanks. Well, OP, I gotta say, I think your sister-in-law is definitely the source of whatever issue is going on right now. And I'm sorry her personal life is not as she expected or that she's happy with, but she shouldn't be trying to affect yours. Misery loves company, and in this case, I think your sister-in-law is trying to get your wife to join the club. It's a good thing that you guys are both on the same page about it, so it doesn't affect you. So here's wishing you both the best. Take care and thanks for sharing. And now let's move on to the next post that also has an update. This post is from the subreddit Relationship Advice and it's by user Visaul. Overheard my 26 male fiance, 24 female, tell her friend on the phone that she settled for being with me and that marrying me was her last resort. Meant to put wife in the title, but now I can't change it. Basically, the title. I overheard my wife talking to one of her best friends on the phone while I was passing the bedroom. This friend is in a serious relationship. My wife then said to her, "Sweetie, remember it's your choice. Don't settle for just anyone. That's the mistake I made. Who knows who else I could have had? Opie was my very last resort, and now look where it made me end up." Hearing that honestly broke my heart in two. Does she even love me? Why am I being treated as a second base? Am I being dramatic and overreacting? I haven't said anything about it since. I honestly don't know what to do, but hearing her say that has really made me upset. Well, P, if I was in your shoes, the first thing I'd do is put all my ducks in a row, financially, legally, everything. Then I'd go talk to a divorce attorney and see what I need to do next because this marriage is over. If that is how she truly feels, I don't want to spend the rest of my life with someone like that. No. I don't think there's anything to analyze. She told what she was actually feeling to her friend. That's it. Confronting her will probably result in just a lot of gaslighting. And what do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section. And now let's check out the community comments. Wildly Mediocre says, "Effing brutal. I am so sorry to hear that. You should really talk to her about it. You should never be somebody's last resort. If that's how she really feels, maybe that relationship isn't working." Che Hawk says, "Damn man, that's effing stone cold. Someone who loved and respected you wouldn't say that, man. I would tell her you hurt her and are done. But that's me. I couldn't continue being with someone who was only with me because they wanted stability and didn't care about me." The Bispy My Guy says, "You should probably confront her about it, but be civil. It will always bother you if you just leave it. Also, keep your happiness in mind. Will staying with her make you happy in the long run, even if you know she isn't?" And Ketita says, I think you should talk to her about it. You deserve much better than being someone's last resort. Have there been other signs in your relationship that she's not fully behind it? Do you feel like she's putting up with you? Can you think of any reason why she might have chosen you for this dubious honor? I'm terribly sorry. It's such a crappy thing to deal with. OP's edit update. Thanks everyone for the kind words. Really has made me feel a lot better. Going to be talking to her soon. Also, I noticed a lot of people thinking this post is fake. I understand how it could be seen that way, but it isn't. I've been engaged to her for over a year and a half, and just 3 months ago we got married. Not really used to calling her my wife yet. Also, I used an old alt since she uses Reddit. Anyways, thanks for the advice, everyone. It amazes me how people on the internet can care so much about a person they don't even know. I'm going to talk to her today. I will be updating you all soon after. Well, the community was telling OP to talk to her about it, and I absolutely agree, and the conversation should be something like, this is over. Please put your things in a bag and be on your way. But anyways, we're gonna go to the update now to see how this story ends. Just did one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. Today after breakfast, I told her we should sit down and talk. She was hesitant, but I said it was important. We went to the living room and she said to me, I already know what this is about. My post apparently made it to the front page, so of course she saw it after scrolling down a bit under popular. Of course, the waterworks started happening right away. I told her what she said had deeply hurt me, but obviously she already knew that since she read my post. Through her tears, she said, I was just joking, I wasn't serious. She then went on saying stuff like, I love you, I love you. I told her I can't be in a marriage where my significant other doesn't love me the same way I love them. She tried to tell me that she loved me and that I meant something to her, but it was all BS. She said she didn't want to lose me. I told her I don't think this marriage was the right decision, and from there I basically told her it was over. I told her I knew how she really felt about me and that it was effed, yo. She basically played with my emotions. For all those wondering, we have no kids, and I pay fully for the apartment we live in, and I own almost everything we have other than her clothes. I even pay for her car. So after all of this, she'll have little to nothing left. Before our marriage, we agreed to sign a prenup, and at that moment, I've never been so happy with the decision I've made in my life. After that, it was a few seconds of awkward silence before she said to me, F you! She started screaming at me, telling me, you just can't end things like that. I told her I could do whatever I wanted, and that's when she became very hostile. She screamed at me saying, you're the effing worst relationship I've ever been in. You think I can't find someone again? Do you think you'll ever find someone as good as me? You're an effing idiot, OP. She grabbed her bag and phone and said, I'm leaving, before slamming the door behind her. At that moment, I felt like I was on one of those dramatic sitcoms you'd find on TV. I sat down on the couch and cried, and I'm still crying as I type this up. It's both happy and sad tears, and I knew it was only time before she cheated on me or left me. She never loved me, it was obvious. Our relationship only went one way, and I feel like a complete idiot for not seeing it earlier. I'm gonna start the process to annul our marriage. Tomorrow, I'm gonna start throwing all of her belongings into trash bags, because that's essentially where they belong. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for all of your kind words and your great advice. All of you gave me the courage to stand up for myself, and I know my life will certainly improve as a result. Well, OP, good for you for doing what's right. You deserve a lot better. So here's wishing you the best, OP. Thanks for sharing and take care. And now let's finish this video with a mood booster post. This post is from the subreddit Petty Revenge and it's by user You Believe You're Guiltless. Told boss I didn't have enough time to do everything. She just left. I worked at a newspaper company from the time I was 19 to about 21. Started out as a receptionist and later got placed into a data entry position for the billing of advertisement slots. I was a fast and reliable typist, so it made sense. Not a glamorous job, but I enjoyed it. I was pretty much the only data entry person for a significant time period. My co-workers at the main office would enter their own sales into the system, but I'd enter those from our other offices. During this period, the owners of the company were buying up more small-town newspapers. I believe at the time we were up to about 16. There were over 20 when I left, and they were still buying more. Well, one of the things I did before I moved into data entry was to do legal documents. This mostly consisted of changing dates, newspaper name, and supervisor's name. Then I would paste on a cutout of the notice that they require a legal document for and place them on my boss's desk for her to get signed and notarized. I stopped doing legal documents after I trained the new receptionist, who was frankly not that great at her job. I don't remember why exactly, but my boss asked me if I could do a few legal documents one week. At this point in time, we had just about 4 new newspapers, and I was way too busy trying to keep up the deadlines to do those legal documents. So I told her I didn't have the time to do them, and she just laughed at me and told me I'd figure it out. Keeping in mind that I'm 20, the youngest person in the office by at least a decade, overworked from being the sole person in charge of multiple newspaper advertisements, and a frequent scapegoat for any mistakes made in the data, which, like 9 times out of 10, the mistakes were made by my boss. You can literally see this by checking who last opened and submitted an ad. They just never bothered verifying beforehand who made the mistake. I pointed this out countless times, and they just sheepishly walk away. Which all led me to decide to be a bit petty. So, I went to my office and entered the data. Every newspaper had a different deadline, which I'd have to meet so they could compare the preprints to the data for the following week. But those legals weren't due until Friday. So for 3 days, I struggled to keep up with the sheer bulk of all the data I had to enter and barely even glanced at those legal documents. Friday was a bit slower day in the afternoon, but the notary typically left around noon. By the time I got the legal documents done, she was gone. My boss, who had forgotten about the legals, blew up demanding why I didn't do them earlier and that they had to go out today. I, who still had a giant stack of data I had to enter by Monday at noon, simply looked at her in the eye and said, "I told you I didn't have the time to do them." Apparently, I glared so hard that she immediately backed down, which honestly I was, and still am, super proud about. She ended up having to drive to the notary's house and get her to sign them and drive back to the office and fax them. The notary did not live in town. Smiley face. Nicely done, OP, but I wouldn't necessarily call this either malicious compliance or a petty revenge. I'd call it, you stood up for yourself. Well done. Thanks for sharing, OP. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out. So here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later. And also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.